There's a day on the calendar that defies all logic of time as you know it. A day that doesn't follow the months, that slips away from the weeks, that doesn't fit into the usual count. It simply stands outside the system, outside the clock, outside the pressure. The ancients called it the day out of time. And it already passed. Yes, it already passed. It was on July 25th. But before you think you missed something, hear me out until the end. Because what happens on this day doesn't end on the 25th. It also happens on other days. And if you stay until the end, you'll understand why. Time is an illusion of movement. The spirit doesn't move. It remembers. Just imagine a day with no weight, no karma, no obligation. A vibrational pause where everything goes quiet. It's like the whole universe holds its breath for a second. Waiting for you to decide who you want to be when everything starts again. For the ancient Mayans, this day was more sacred than any holiday. They didn't treat it like just another date. They lived it as a space for cleansing, a restart point, a spiritual reset, a moment when nothing was done, only being existed. And that's where Thoth comes in. Long before the Mayans, Thoth was already speaking of time as a frequency, not a sequence. He said time isn't linear, but vibrational. That the past and the future are illusions projected by the mind, and that there is a point outside that line. A point where the spirit breathes, where everything can be reconfigured, where you can access a new version of yourself without having to wait for a new year, a new week, or even a new day. That point is the day out of time, but it's not locked to July 25th. Can be accessed. And that's where things start to get serious. If this content found you now, it wasn't by accident. Synchronicity exists, and Thoth knew that. He said that everything that reaches you at the right time, and those who have eyes to see will see. So hear this with your heart. What was activated on July 25th is still in the field. And more importantly, you can still enter. The truth is, most people didn't even notice what happened. The day went by like any other. There was work, traffic, social media, bills. Everything seemed the same. But it wasn't, because while the world kept rushing, something invisible had stopped. A field had been opened. And if you're hearing this now, you can still cross over. Real time doesn't follow the clock. It responds to consciousness. And if you think you already understand everything, wait until you find out what this frequency left available even after the date passed. Because what's about to happen now is what changes everything. Have you ever had that strange feeling that something changed, but you're not exactly sure what? Like the air feels different, like the world feels lighter or heavier even though nothing visible has changed. That kind of perception doesn't come through the eyes or ears. Information that reaches the subtle body directly. And that's exactly what happens in the days following July 25th. Because even after the so-called day out of time passes through the calendar, the field it activates keeps echoing beyond the date. Think with me. Time, the way you were taught to see it, is a straight line, a logical sequence of minutes, days, months. Everything marked with a beginning, middle, and end. But that logic is only useful for the clock, not for the spirit. The spirit lives in a different architecture. It moves in spirals, pulses, frequencies. And when an event like July 25th happens, it doesn't end. It spreads. It's like throwing a stone into a calm lake. The impact happens at one point, but the ripples keep going long after. That's why many people, even without knowing the meaning of the date, report strange internal changes in the days that follow. Sudden urges to change habits, question routines, close cycles, start fresh. Emotions surface. Intuition gets stronger. Dreams become more symbolic, more revealing. This isn't random. This is the field moving. It's the vibration of July 25th still resonating through the invisible layers of reality. The ancients knew this. They didn't follow a wristwatch, but the pulse of the cosmos. And when that pulse opened like a vortex in the fabric of time, they stopped everything. They silenced. They connected with their essence because they knew those openings don't last forever. But they don't close immediately either. There's an echo, an energetic trail that remains accessible to those who align with it. And that echo is here now, still active, still vibrating. Thoth called this moment a vibrational inflection point because he knew there are times when reality becomes flexible, when the structures that usually feel rigid begin to dissolve, allowing the spirit to choose again. But pay attention, this choice isn't mental. It's not something you make rationally, like picking something off a menu. It's a vibrational decision, a silent realignment that happens when you realize, I don't have to keep being who I've been until now. But to feel that, you need to be present. You need to silence the noise of the world and listen to the sound that doesn't come through your ears. You need to tune into the field, not the feed. Because this frequency isn't in the news or viral videos. It's in the air, in the space between thoughts, in the gap between what was and what's about to be born. And if you stop right now and just breathe with awareness, you'll feel that something is there. Something light, something available, something waiting for just your presence. That is the echo of what was activated. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't impose. It invites. It doesn't demand anything. It offers a silent portal. But only those who listen with an open heart can walk through. And that's why you're here. Because somehow you've already started to feel this calling. But why was this day so powerful? And why can now be even more? The hidden code of Thoth about time. That's where everything really starts to reveal itself. Because what gives power to the so-called day out of time isn't the number itself. It's not just July 25th marked on some random calendar. It's what lies behind the way you were taught to perceive time, the invisible structure that defines when you wake up, when you work, when you rest, and even when you think you're allowed to be reborn. You were educated inside a logic where everything must fit into a grid. The time has to be scheduled. The task has to be completed. The new year only starts on January 1st. The break only comes on the weekend and barely even then. But the soul doesn't follow those rules. Pulses in a different way. And when that pulse tries to adapt to a system that doesn't honor its cycles, it gets sick. It dims. It gets lost. The time, that linear, boxed-up time made of squares and numbers is an invention. An artificial construction created not to free you, but to tame you. To put you on a treadmill where everything is repetition. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, paycheck, goal, holiday, relief. And it all starts again. A loop that doesn't ask how you're doing or if any of it makes sense to you. It just demands. It just pulls. That system has a name. The Gregorian calendar. Imposed centuries ago for political and religious reasons. It was widely adopted as if it were the only way to measure time. But it's not. It ignores Earth's natural cycles. It disrupts the rhythms of the human body. It disregards the moon phases, solar alignments, and glow life that ancient civilizations always respected. Turns sacred time into a tool of productivity, and more than that, of control. Look at the months. Some have 30 days, others 31. February has 28, sometimes 29. None of it follows a natural pattern. It's all distorted, fractured, broken, created to fit within an agenda of power. And you grew up thinking that was normal, that this was time. But it's not. It's an illusion. And the more you hold on to it, the further you drift from your own internal rhythm. Now compare it with what the ancient Mayans did. They used the calendar of 13 moons, a harmonic natural system based on the pulse of the earth and the cosmos. 13 exact cycles of 28 days, each with its purpose, its energy, its symbol. At the end of those perfect 364 days came the 365th day. But that day didn't play the game. It wasn't part of the count. It wasn't productive or useful. It was free. It was empty. It was sacred. That day was the day out of time. And what did people do on that day? Nothing. And everything. It was a moment to completely stop. No work was done. Nothing was sold. Nothing was demanded. It was a space of reconnection. A ritual silence. A pause between what was and what's to come. Like a breath between two cycles. A cosmic reminder that sometimes, in order to move forward, you need to stop. Now, think, what happens to a human being who never truly stops? Who lives chasing deadlines, goals, and obligations without ever having real inner silence? They don't live. They survive. They repeat. They burn out. They disconnect. they get sick. And they don't even know why. Thoth said, "Artificial time is the great spell of modern humanity. A collective enchantment that makes people forget how to feel, to listen, to pause." He warned, "Those who live trapped in man's calendar forget the rhythm of the universe." And that's not a metaphor, because everything in the universe pulses in cycles. Day and night, full moon and new, the tides, the growth of plants, the gestation of a being. Everything has a beginning, a middle, a pause, and a rebirth. But the calendar that rules your life has no true pause. It only offers brief gaps between one effort and the next. And that's not a flaw. It's a design. Because a human who never truly pauses doesn't hear their own soul. And a being that doesn't hear its soul obeys without questioning. That's why real laziness isn't stopping. Real laziness is not questioning the system. It's continuing to spin in this artificial cycle, believing that's just how it is, while your vital energy drains away without purpose. And this is where the real teaching, the one no one has noticed, comes in. Time was never about counting hours. It's always been about feeling states. And Thoth, the Atlantean master who left his eternal records in the halls of Amenti, was already saying that back when humanity was still learning to breathe with awareness. While kings and priests built calendars to organize empires, Thoth spoke of another kind of time. A time that doesn't run in a straight line. A time that can't be split into morning, afternoon, and night. Real time, he said, pulses. It vibrates. It moves in concentric spirals that touch deeper and deeper layers of consciousness. And this time cannot be measured, can only be accessed. That's why when Thoth talked about time, he wasn't teaching you how to organize appointments. He was pointing to a vibrational code that, once understood, pulls you out of the loop of repetition and places you into the realm of creation. A code that transforms waiting time into powerful time. A code that reveals, you're not here to count the days. You're here to create with them. And here's a key that few can hold. Stepping out of time is not escaping life. It's living in reality with a new level of awareness. It's stopping the habit of living in later and starting to act from the eternal now. Because that's the only point where creation truly happens. Anything not born in the now is born conditioned, controlled, programmed. The ancients called this kairos, the time of the soul, the right moment, the instant where everything aligns. And Thoth went further. He showed that this moment doesn't depend on the stars out there, but on the vibration in here. When you enter kairos, chronological time loses its grip on you. You're no longer chasing anything. You vibrate in a frequency where everything begins to come to you. And July 25th, in that context, was just an anchor. A symbolic reminder that there's a crack in the world's artificial flow. A moment to breathe. A signal. But it was never the only one. Because the truth is that any day can be your day out of time. Any moment can become sacred if you know how to step out of the clock and into the frequency. The time Thoth taught has no beginning, middle, or end. It has access. It has presence. It has pulse. And when you learn to feel that pulse and no longer just look at the clock, something starts to shift in your reality. You stop repeating patterns. You stop reacting the same way. You stop being an effect and start becoming a cause. You activate a new order in the field. And that, for the ancient initiates, was the real miracle. Not performing magic out there, but altering the internal rhythm so deeply that the universe out there has no choice but to respond. And this is exactly the point where almost no one pays attention. The symbolic reminder of July 25th doesn't fade when the date passes. On the contrary, it becomes stronger after the day has gone by. What happens today? The activation outside of time. Before, the vibration of the field could still be attributed to cosmic alignment, to the sacred calendar, to collective symbolism. But now that July 25th is behind us, everything depends on your consciousness. And that changes absolutely everything. If you're watching this, then understand, this could be your day out of time. Even if the calendar doesn't recognize it. Even if no one is celebrating. Even if the outside world is functioning as usual. Because spiritual time doesn't follow the noise of the world. It follows the silence within. What the ancient initiates knew. And what Thoth encoded for those with eyes to see is that linear time is just one of the layers of reality. But it's not the only one, nor the truest. And that's why a true initiate doesn't depend on a mark date. They create their own sacred moment. They activate the code when their consciousness reaches the right point. Today, right now, as you hear these words, the field is still available. It doesn't matter if 5 days, 10, or 100 have passed. If your vibration aligns with this space outside of time, the portal reopens because it never depended on the date. It depended on the state. And the state is activated with an invisible yet powerful gesture. The decision. The decision to stop repeating, to stop running, to stop obeying someone else's clock, and to start from now on vibrating from within, from presence, from a place that no longer needs permission to exist. This is true spiritual rebirth. When you realize you no longer have to wait for the next new year, the next numerological portal, or the next right moment. You choose, you activate, you restart. Because the true initiate is the one who creates their own sacred calendar. They might write the date down on paper, but what matters is what happens in the field. Because if the field vibrates, then time is ready. Because now you know, now you are conscious, and now the activation no longer depends on the day out of time, because you entered it by choice. And that choice needs nothing else, just your presence. But only those who know how to empty themselves are able to receive the new cycle. And that's what's coming now. Only those who know how to empty themselves are able to receive the new cycle. Because while there is accumulation, there's no room for the new. And we're not talking about physical things here, but about frequencies, vibrations, emotional residues that remain alive within you even when your body is still. Thoth said that death was not an end. It was a transition of vibrational state. And that's why before any true rebirth, there must be a symbolic death. A cleansing, a deprogramming. But it's not just any kind of cleansing. It's not about erasing the past as if it never existed. It's a conscious release. You look at what was, you understand, you honor, and you let go. Because if you keep holding on, that past keeps creating your reality from fear, guilt, repetition. And the truth is, you can't create a new vibrational field if you keep repeating the same unconscious codes as always. And those codes are hidden in sentences you don't even notice you carry anymore. I can't. I always mess things up. This isn't for me. I've tried and failed. These sentences are like vibrational contracts, energetic signatures that you renew without realizing it every single day. But now, in this space you've opened, they no longer make sense. They no longer vibrate with who you are becoming. And this is where the initiate must stand firm, because the ego will try to hold on to what's familiar, even if it's limiting. The ego fears the void, fears the silence, because silence is where it doesn't exist. And it's exactly in that silence that the soul can finally speak. This is the moment of emptying. It's not comfortable, but it's sacred, because it's at this point that the layers begin to fall away. The ancestral fears passed down through generations. The beliefs you inherited and never questioned. The guilt that isn't even yours, but that you accepted to carry. And Thoth was clear. None of this needs to be destroyed. It only needs to be released. Sirius and the light that awakens forgotten codes. And now that the space has been created, something that was quietly waiting beyond your ordinary perception can finally enter. Because it's not just about clearing to empty. It's about clearing to receive. It's about creating a vibrational field where the intelligence of the cosmos can land. There is a light that is not from this earth. A light that doesn't carry human promises or fixed dates. A light that can't be forced, summoned, or manipulated. It simply recognizes and responds. But only when it finds fertile ground, the inner silence. That light is called Sirius. Far beyond just a star in the sky, Sirius has always been seen as a living portal. For the ancient Egyptians, it was the home of the gods. For the Dogon people, it was the cradle of origin. For the Mayans, it was a stellar key that aligned Earth's time with the time of the spirit. And around July 25th, something happens. Sirius rises together with the sun. This is not a random astronomical detail. It's a point of convergence between realities. It's when two solar forces merge in frequency, opening a subtle gap between worlds. This gap can't be seen, can only be felt. And what comes through it is a type of light that doesn't illuminate the eyes but awakens the subtle body. Thoth said this light is a transmitter, a kind of silent emissary carrying codes from the soul's original memory. But it doesn't impose. It doesn't force its way in. This light is like a messenger that only enters when the door is already slightly open. And that door is your field. That's why everything you've experienced up to now, even without knowing, has been preparation. The pain, the emptiness, the surrender, the breaking points, all of it was a path to open the channel, to soften the rigidity, to make the field more porous, more receptive, more clear. Because Sirius's light only enters where there is space. It only manifests where there is truth. It only reveals its language where the noise has been silenced. And now that light has found an opening, because there is a part of you that has already emptied itself enough to welcome the new. And this new is ancient, far more ancient than any story ever told here. When that light enters, it touches the pineal gland. Not just in the physical sense, but on a much subtler plane. It activates records. It stirs memories that were frozen in your field. Sensations that don't make rational sense, but vibrate with an unexplainable certainty. You begin to feel chills for no reason. A strange warmth in the center of your chest. A tear that comes not from pain, but from an emotion with no name. It's your body recognizing something your mind hasn't reached yet. And in that moment, something reorganizes. You begin to sense an inner pulse, a different vibration. It doesn't come from outside. It's not caused by any word or external trigger. It's as if something very ancient were waking up inside you. A code, a calling, a password that could only be activated in this exact state you're in right now. The final secret of Thoth. Real time begins with a choice. This is the most critical moment of the process. It's when everything that has been purified, dissolved, emptied needs to be filled with consciousness. This is the moment to give form to the invisible. The field is open. The channel is clear. Presence is alive. And what you choose to vibrate now will become matter in your life. Thoth got straight to the point when he said, the verb is the first matter of creation. He wasn't using poetic language. He was revealing a hidden mechanism of the universe. The word, when spoken with truth, is like an energetic command the field obeys. But it's not enough to repeat random phrases. The word only creates when it's clothed in presence, intention, and vibrational coherence. When it comes from an integrated being, it becomes a command. And that's why now you need to speak out loud. Not just think. Not just write. Speak with conscious breathing. With your spine upright, with your chest expanded, because the sound needs to move through space. It needs to be heard by your energetic field. It needs to echo through your own system. Say this, today I step out of time. Today I activate my true reality. Today, I am pure presence. Each word carries a seal. It's a command for your subtle body, a vibrational password that informs the universe. Something has been reconfigured here. This decree is like a key that turns, sealing the new cycle. But pay attention. You're not asking the universe for anything. You're affirming a new identity, a new state of being. You're updating your field. When you say, today, I step out of time, you are breaking with the logic of endless waiting. You're stepping out of the collective calendar that kept you a prisoner of dates, events, moon phases, and external permissions. You're saying, time now begins within me. When you say, today, I activate my true reality, you're accessing a timeline that already exists but was inactive. A line where you live from your true vibration, not from fear-based programming. This is the timeline of the real self. And when you say, today, I am pure presence, something anchors. You land in the now, in the only point where creation truly happens. Because as long as you're in the past or the future, you're in the field of illusion. But when you're here, fully present, you become the very temple of manifestation. This decree is the seed. But something is still missing because every seed needs soil. And the soil is a choice. The choice is what activates the cycle. It's what seals the new code. It's what turns this experience into something real and lasting. And here lies Thoth's greatest secret. He never taught people to depend on dates. He never tied expansion to portals or alignments. True power, according to him, begins with the vibrational decision to stop running from your own presence. Real time begins with a choice. A silent but definitive choice. A choice that says, I will no longer wait. I will no longer repeat inherited patterns. I will no longer trade who I am to fit into someone else's time. From now on, I create my own time. From now on, I step out of human time and into the time of the spirit. Asterisk. Because the point out of time is not an esoteric holiday. It's not a date to mark on the calendar. It's a field that you access with courage. It's a state of consciousness that dissolves the past and opens a doorway in the now. And when you step into that field, everything changes because time stops being something that pushes you and starts becoming something that is born from within. In this exact moment, you've crossed that threshold. Maybe without realizing it. Maybe in silence. But something has been crossed. An old cycle has dissolved. A new frequency has begun to pulse. You no longer need permission. You no longer need a sacred calendar. You are the calendar. You are the time. You are the field. You are the point out of time. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognized this frequency. So leave a comment. I entered real time. That phrase is not just symbolic. It anchors your vibrational choice into the field. Oh, and if you'd like to help this channel reach even more people with messages like this, there's a link in the first pinned comment where you can contribute directly. Your support helps this mission vibrate even farther. Thank you. And before you go, pay attention. I've set aside a special video that picks up right where this one ends. Just click on the screen so we can meet there. The next step is already waiting for you.